Operational stability is never an accident. It's ruthlessly engineered. Yet, in enterprise tech strategy right now, there's a dangerous tendency to rush straight into software implementation while completely ignoring the foundation. In this explainer, we're going to dissect the hard reality of project execution. Operational stability and strict scope definition have to be locked down before you initiate a single technical task.
Projects don't fail at the end. They failed at the beginning. Woody Williams hit the nail on the head here. Jumping directly into implementation without a verified architectural foundation isn't just a minor oversight. It is a multi-million-dollar liability. Enterprise projects rarely fail from a sudden collapse in month 9. They fail from structural rot that was already present, but completely ignored, in month 1.
Consider the glaring gap between vendor marketing hype and actual structural reality. The idealistic view assumes that software-driven fixes are going to automatically align with your business operations, but the reality on the ground exposes unmapped scope, undocumented assumptions, and massive systemic human friction. You simply cannot fix a broken business model by slapping a shiny new interface on top of it.
We're operating through a precise blueprint today. We'll start with the high-stakes operational risk, then move into securing Phase 8 stability. From there, we break down the project charter, define the structural scope, align the human architecture, and finally lock in execution and the post-mortem.
Section 1. High-stakes operational risk, the multi-million-dollar liability.
We have to start with the immediate threat. Poor project initiation isn't merely an administrative error. It's a direct, quantifiable financial liability. The core principle you must adopt is process before platform. If your operation suffers from unreconciled inventory or completely fractured data, implementing a massive new ERP system is not going to save you. Automating an unengineered broken manual process just forces that inefficiency to fail faster and at a massive scale. Technology amplifies your foundational flaws. It doesn't cure them.
Section 2. Securing Phase A stability across 4 key phases.
To secure genuine operational integrity, you have to adhere to a rigid structural roadmap. Notice the chronological weight on this timeline. Before any implementation begins, you must survive formal decision gates in Phase 1, initiation, and Phase 2, planning. You do not pass these gates, and you do not spend a dime on software until your baseline stability is fully locked.
Section 3, the Project Charter Blueprint, which is essentially your binding executive contract.
The true output of that initial phase is a binding contract that secures your hard resource allocation and formally shuts down scope creep. This rigorous 10-step writing process demands meticulous alignment. Step 1 forces you to identify the actual sponsor. Step 3 demands validation of the business impact. Listen, if you cannot reach consensus on the goals and outputs right here, the directive is incredibly simple. Stop the project. This framework enforces operational discipline over blind optimism.
The charter mandates granular accountability at both the executive and operational levels. Your executive sponsor holds the financial and strategic power. They provide the funding, chair the steering committee, and crucially, they hold the authority to kill the project if it veers off course. Meanwhile, the project manager is strictly bound to execution and integration. Any ambiguity or misalignment in these roles creates systemic friction that will rot the project from the inside out.
Section 4. Defining the structural scope and engineering the boundaries. Once accountability is established, we pivot to the mechanical engineering of your project boundaries, the scope statement. This explicitly bounds your operational environment. Yes, you have to document specific deliverables, key processes, and rigid acceptance criteria. But the absolute most critical variable on this list is project exclusions. Clearly defining what is strictly out of scope is just as vital as defining what's in scope. Always remember, what you exclude protects what you execute.
Failure to engineer these strict boundaries inevitably results in scope creep. This is the ultimate threat to Phase A stability. When random requests expand without a proportional adjustment to time or budget, your operational baseline degrades, resource capacity gets completely overwhelmed, and the financial margins of your enterprise are quietly bled dry.
Section 5. Aligning the human architecture through the kickoff protocol.
With the structural scope defined, we have to confront the most volatile variable in the entire equation, the human element. The kickoff protocol is almost never used correctly. It is not a corporate meet and greet. It is a behavioral alignment mechanism designed to combat change fatigue. This tactical agenda dictates exactly how the statement of work translates into reality, establishing a single, unshakable source of truth for communication and risk management.
Here's the challenge every executive stakeholder has to answer. How will your team handle unexpected scope variations? Human resistance always manifests when operational environments change. If an unmapped database field disrupts a frontline workflow, how exactly does your team react? Mitigating that human element requires establishing a firm, non-negotiable change control process during the kickoff. That way, when friction inevitably occurs, the response is structural, not emotional.
Section 6. Execution and the post-mortem, building the ultimate feedback loop. Finally, we arrive at the reality of execution. Listen, implementation is not just doing the work, it is the continuous, ruthless analysis of operational variances. When reality deviates from your charter, you don't just figure it out on the fly, you trigger formal change requests. Execution is essentially constantly measuring the gap between your baseline architecture and actual performance.
Furthermore, project closure isn't just about ending the work, it's about capturing organizational maturity. The project closure sheet is a mandatory post-mortem. It meticulously documents what failed, how risks actually manifested, and the hard data required to launch subsequent, much more effective initiatives. Without this post-mortem data, your enterprise isn't actually learning. It's simply repeating its most expensive mistakes on a loop.
Our core thesis here is uncompromising. True enterprise agility and digital transformation rely entirely on an unshakable, ruthlessly documented foundation process dictates platform. You must secure Phase A operational integrity before you authorize a single technical task.
Which leaves us with a high-stakes operational question to close out. Take a hard look at your current project portfolio. Are you engineering a resilient structural foundation with clear scope and deeply accountable human architecture, or are you simply preparing your broken processes to fail at scale?